Dad's voice thundered across the Christmas dinner table, his face purple with rage as 20 relatives watched in stunned silence. My sister Lauren smirked from across the table, adding, "Good luck affording anything on your pathetic salary," completely unaware that I'd been secretly paying every utility bill, the property taxes, and the home insurance for the past 5 years. What would happen when they discovered their unemployed son wasn't broke? He was just tired of being their invisible benefactor. The dining room in my parents' Cincinnati home was decorated with the same faded tinsel and plastic reindeer they'd used since 1995. Dad stood at the head of the table, his finger pointing at me like a weapon, spittle flying as he continued his tirade. 27 years old, Daniel. Living here rent-free like some kind of parasite while your sister contributes to this household. Lauren's contribution consisted of eating the food I paid for and using the electricity I kept on, but pointing that out would spoil the surprise that was about to unfold. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly, setting down my fork. "I should pay rent or get out. Pay rent or get out. Finally, some sense." Mom chimed in from her seat, wine glass already half empty. "Maybe this will motivate you to get a real job instead of playing with computers all day." My playing with computers was remote software development for 3 different companies, pulling in $180,000 a year. But to them, if you weren't commuting to an office in a suit, you weren't really working. The fact that I worked from my childhood bedroom in sweats made me a failure in their eyes, despite the reality that I was the only thing standing between them and financial ruin. "I'll be out by tomorrow," I announced, pulling out my phone to text my real estate agent. "The movers can come in the morning." Dad laughed, a harsh bark that echoed off the dining room walls. "Movers? With what money? You gonna move your gaming setup to some studio apartment you can't afford?" "Something like that," I replied, confirming the next day appointment with the moving company I'd already scheduled weeks ago. Lauren leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "This should be entertaining. Watch him come crawling back in a week when he realizes Mommy and Daddy aren't paying for his chicken nuggets anymore." Aunt Patricia nodded sympathetically at my parents. "Sometimes tough love is necessary. He's been enabled for too long." The irony was so thick I could have carved it with the turkey knife. They thought they'd been enabling me while I'd been silently keeping their lives afloat. 5 years of paying bills, 5 years of anonymous financial support, 5 years of listening to them berate me for being a failure while I made sure they had heat in the winter and food on the table. "You know what? You're all right," I said, standing up. "I've been enabled too long. Time to take responsibility for myself." "Now he's being dramatic," Lauren rolled her eyes. "Sit down and finish your dinner. We all know you're not going anywhere." "Actually, I am. Excuse me while I pack." I left the table to a chorus of laughter and mockery, catching fragments of conversation as I headed upstairs. "He'll be back by morning. Mom probably doesn't even know how to fill out a rental application. Lauren, this is what happens when you coddle boys. Aunt Patricia, $20 says he doesn't even pack anything. Uncle Steve." In my room, I pulled out the pre-packed boxes I'd been slowly filling for weeks. The closing on my new house was 3 days ago, but I'd waited until Christmas for maximum impact. Petty? Absolutely. Justified? After years of being called a leech while secretly being the host, I thought so. My phone buzzed. Sarah, my girlfriend of 2 years whom my family didn't know existed because no woman would date a loser who lives with his parents. "How's it going?" her text read. "Nuclear explosion in progress. Extraction at 0800 tomorrow. Your room's already here. Can't wait to finally have you home." Home. A 4-bedroom house in Oakley that I'd bought in cash, not the childhood bedroom my parents held over my head like a weapon. I could hear Mom coming up the stairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood I'd paid to refinish last year. She knocked once and entered without waiting for permission, as usual. "Daniel, stop being ridiculous and come finish dinner." "I'm packing," I said, carefully wrapping my monitors. "Where exactly do you think you're going to go? You don't have first and last month's rent. You don't have credit. You don't have anything." "I have more than you know," I said quietly. She laughed, the same dismissive sound that had soundtracked my entire adult life. "What, your little computer job? Please. Your father and I have seen your bank statements." She'd seen the decoy checking account I kept specifically for their snooping, maintained at a careful $1,200 balance to fuel their narrative of my failure. The real accounts, the savings, the investments, the portfolio that would make their retirement fund look like pocket change, those were none of their business. "You're right," I said. "I'm a complete failure. Which is why I'm leaving, so I won't be your burden anymore." "Oh, stop the martyrdom. Just apologize to your father and..." "No." The word hung between us, sharp and final. "No?" Her voice rose. "No? You ungrateful little..." "I'm done, Mom. Done being the family disappointment. Done being compared to Lauren, who hasn't held a job in 3 years. Done being called a parasite by people who..." I caught myself. Not yet. Tomorrow, after I was gone, they'd figure it out themselves. People who what? She challenged. People who don't appreciate what they have, I finished. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the gaming achievement certificates on my wall, the ones from tournaments that had paid 5-figure prizes, which they'd never asked about. I worked through the night, packing everything I cared about. The rest could rot. As I packed, I made a list of all the automatic payments I'd need to cancel. Electric bill, $200 per month. Gas bill, $150 per month. Water bill, $75 per month. Internet, $120 per month. The high-speed package Dad claimed to pay for. Property taxes, $500 per month. Home insurance, $180 per month. Groceries, $600 per month. Weekly delivery they thought was from savings. Mom's car insurance, $130 per month. Dad's medications, $280 per month, copays he complained about constantly. Nearly $2,500 a month, invisible and unappreciated. They lived in a fantasy where Dad's pension and Mom's part-time retail job covered everything, never questioning how the math worked. By 6 a.m., everything I owned was in boxes. I made coffee in the kitchen one last time, using the expensive beans I'd bought that Dad complained were pretentious. Lauren stumbled in at 7, looking hungover. Holy shit, you're actually doing it? Told you I was. Where are you even going? That's not your concern anymore. She laughed. You'll be back by lunch. Hey, when you come crawling back, can you pick up my dry cleaning? I'm too busy to deal with it. Get it yourself, I said. Or better yet, ask Mom and Dad to pay for it. They already pay for everything else, she said, raiding the fridge for orange juice I'd bought. What's one more thing? I almost laughed at the beautiful irony. You're right. What's one more thing? The movers arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. Professional, efficient, and confused by the family gathered in robes on the lawn, shouting at me as they loaded boxes. This is insane. Dad yelled. You're throwing your life away out of pride. I'm starting my life, I corrected, signing the paperwork. Where are you even taking this stuff? Mom demanded. Storage unit, elite. No need to let them know about the house yet. With what money? Lauren challenged. I know for a fact you can't afford movers. Did you take out some predatory loan? Are you dealing drugs? Something like that, I said, watching them load my desk. Uncle Steve and Aunt Patricia had come outside to watch the show. Various cousins pressed against windows, phones out, recording the family drama. This is what happens when you threaten a man's dignity, Uncle Steve announced to no one in particular. He's probably going to some friend's couch. $10 says he's back by New Year's, Cousin Mike called out. 20 says he's back tonight, Lauren countered. As the truck pulled away, I turned to face my assembled family one last time. They stood there in their matching Christmas pajamas, that I'd bought, in front of the house I'd kept running, living their delusion that I was the family failure. Thank you, I said sincerely. For what? Dad snorted. For making this easy. I've spent 5 years feeling guilty about wanting to leave. But you've made it clear, I'm just a parasite. A burden. A failure. So there's nothing to feel guilty about anymore. Drama queen, Lauren muttered. Good luck with January's bills, I said, getting into my car. Why would we need luck? Mom asked, genuinely puzzled. No reason. Just, good luck. I drove away to a chorus of mockery and predictions of my imminent return. They'd know the truth soon enough. The first of the month was 6 days away. The utility companies would start sending notices. The grocery deliveries would stop. The little financial miracles they'd attributed to careful budgeting would dry up. But by then, I'd be settled in my actual home with Sarah, starting the life I'd put on hold to secretly support people who saw me as nothing but a disappointment. My phone exploded with texts as I drove. This is childish. Mom. Grow up. Dad. LOL, can't wait for the crawl back, Lauren. Your parents are worried sick, Aunt Patricia. Offering 3:1 odds you're back by tomorrow, Cousin Mike. I turned off my phone and drove to my new house, my real house, where Sarah was waiting with champagne and a banner that read freedom at last. How do you feel? She asked as I collapsed on our couch, in our living room, in our house. Like I should have done this years ago, I admitted. You were trying to help them. That's admirable, even if they didn't deserve it. They're about to find out what their actual financial situation is, I said. Part of me feels guilty. The same part that let them treat you like garbage while you paid their bills? Yeah, that part. Maybe it needs to shut up, she suggested, handing me a glass. 6 days later, the text started changing tone. Daniel, there's an issue with the electric bill. Please call. Mom. The internet got shut off. Did you change the password? Dad, grocery delivery says the card was declined. Very funny. Fix it. Laura and I responded to none of them. By day 10, the calls were panicked. Daniel, the power is getting shut off. The mortgage company called. There's some mistake. This isn't funny anymore. By day 15, Lauren showed up at my office. I'd never told her where I worked, but desperation was a powerful motivator. Nice place, she said, looking around the tech company's modern lobby. Didn't know computer support paid well enough for an office. I'm not computer support, I said. I'm a senior software engineer. Whatever. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but mom and dad are freaking out. Something's wrong with all their accounts. Nothing's wrong, I said. They're just experiencing their actual financial situation for the first time in 5 years. What are you talking about? I pulled up my laptop and showed her the spreadsheet. 5 years of payments. Every bill, every grocery order, every mysterious windfall that kept them afloat. Her face went white. You've been paying for everything? While being called a parasite, yes. But that's thousands of dollars a month. $2,462 on average. How can you afford that? Because unlike what you all believe, I'm not a failure. I make good money. I invested wisely. I lived below my means, which was easy since you all assumed I had no means. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? Would Dad have stopped calling me a disappointment? Would you have stopped making jokes about my fake job? Would Mom have stopped trying to set me up with her friend's daughters because no woman would want a loser who lives at home? Lauren slumped in the visitor's chair. We're going to lose the house. No, you're not. If Dad goes back to work and Mom increases her hours, if you get any job at all, you can make it work. You'll have to budget, cut luxuries, live like most people live. You know, like the parasite you thought I was. Daniel, please. I supported this family for 5 years while being treated like dirt. I'm done. You all wanted me gone. You got your wish. But family doesn't treat family like you treated me. Family doesn't mock and belittle and demand rent from someone who's secretly keeping them afloat. Family appreciates. Family supports. Family sees value beyond a bank account, which is ironic since you never saw my bank account anyway. She left in tears, but not before asking, that girlfriend in the pictures on your desk, is she real? Very real. We're getting married next summer. You're not invited. The family explosion was nuclear. Dad called me every name in the book. Mom tried guilt, tears, manipulation, and threats. Lauren actually applied for jobs, which was a miracle in itself. The extended family took sides, most landing on, how could you abandon your parents? Easy. They abandoned me first. They just did it while I was sitting at their table. 3 months later, I heard through the grapevine that they'd kept the house, barely. Dad took a job at Home Depot. Mom went full-time at the department store. Lauren was waitressing and hating every minute of it. They'd learned to budget, to sacrifice, to live within their actual means. They learned what I'd always known, but they refused to see, that survival took work, that bills didn't pay themselves, that their disappointment son had been their salvation all along. I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out. I didn't offer to help when I heard Dad's hours got cut or Mom's car needed repairs. I'd given them 5 years of invisible support while they'd given me nothing but visible disdain. Now they could live with the consequences of their choices, just like they'd always told me to do. The difference was, I'd been living with my choices all along. And my choices had made me rich in more than just money, they'd made me rich in self-respect, something no amount of rent could buy.